So thank you all again for being here, and Bill, thank you for that introduction. As you were going through that introduction, I was thinking about what Josh said, and I was very grateful that you're all in this room, because if you were online, that 20-minute introduction, you probably would have all disappeared, as Josh warned. So the bio will be a little bit shorter when you attend one of my webinars. But Josh, I don't think Josh is in the room now, but, oh, there he is. What a great job Josh did, and I'd like to give him a round of applause. I learn something new every time I hear Josh present, and but the handoff was great, because as Josh noted, the webinar strategies that he outlined are for the most part about attracting leads and getting people who don't already know you into the funnel. And in many cases, a well-executed webinar will result in a sale and can result in lots of sales. But as Josh noted, you often have lots and lots of prospects who engage with you through a webinar or through whatever marketing means you use to initially connect with them, who aren't ready to buy or don't take that step. And then the question becomes, now what? Before I dive in, I'd like a show of hands. How many people here are in business-to-business businesses as opposed to business-to-consumer businesses? The vast majority, which was my suspicion. Good, because I'm going to focus primarily on concepts that work for B2B businesses, although for those of you who are B2C businesses, don't worry, these concepts apply as well. I was speaking to a prospect fairly recently in the B2B space, and he was repeating some fairly tired but common cliches to me. Number one, email marketing is dead. That's a myth, but we hear it quite a bit. Number two, we don't close sales with email. That's a fact for his business as well as for many B2B businesses. But where he was using that as an objection to say, why in the world would we use email marketing or social media or interactive technologies in our marketing mix if we can't close a sale? I proceeded to explain to him how those technologies are crucial in the step between lead attraction and a sale, that place that we call engagement. So what we're going to talk about today is ways to use interactive technologies, primarily email, to engage prospects and to move them from that initial point of attraction and first point of engagement, the webinar in this case, to the sale. How to get there most productively and most quickly and profitably, and how to do it in ways that will seem perhaps counterintuitive. We're going to turn some ideas upside down. We're going to present some tactics and tips, and we're going to get you to a point where you have some ideas that you can bring home to your business right away and put to work right away. Steve, in a moment I'm going to ask you to turn off the camera because we're going to interact right away. And we're going to interact around this question. Think about the last few times that you made a sale in your business. And actually take out a sheet of paper and just jot it down. Answer the question, how did you close the sale? Did you do it with a face-to-face meeting? Did you do it with a phone call? Did you do it because somebody received an email and said, sign me up? Did you do it because somebody attended a webinar and took the offer that you put forward at the end of the webinar? How do you typically close a sale in your business? Steve, we can turn the camera off for just a moment. I want to give people about. We just spent a moment talking, and the answers were generally that the sales that you close typically come from face-to-face, telephone conversations, direct personal contact. That's especially true in B2B businesses, but it's also often true in B2C, and it's more true the higher the ticket price, the higher the cost of the product or service that you're delivering. We were talking a moment ago about referrals, and few, if any, of us ever get a phone call from a prospect who says, John called and referred me in, please send me a contract. No, there's direct conversation. So the first thing to understand, and I'm an email marketing guy, an interactive marketing guy saying this to you, is that interactive technology is not a silver bullet. Interactive technologies like email do not reinvent the way in which you close a deal. You close deals in the way that you always have closed deals, with phone calls, with meetings, with direct interaction. That does not mean, however, that interactive technologies like email play no role in the sales process. What role do they play? Well, to get there, we're going to work backwards. We're going to start with that question that I just asked. How do you close the sale? And in many cases, you close the sale with a meeting, you close the sale with phone calls, you close the sale with that personal connection. So think backwards from the close, and then find the confluence. The confluence between your online marketing, email, social media, whatever it may be, and the key sales activities that ultimately lead to the close. So the question is not, how can I magically write an email or put a post up on Facebook or post a tweet that will magically hopscotch me from lead to sale. The question is, how can I use interactive technologies to help me get to more phone calls or help me call the right people? How can I use interactive technologies to get more meetings more quickly or invite the right people to the meeting? Not how to use it to close, but how to use it to get to the closing sales activities. So many businesses dive into these newfangled technologies. It's funny to call email a newfangled technology, but especially in the the B2B space, there are lots of businesses that it's still, it feels very newfangled. So many businesses dive into these things, making that great mistake of thinking they're loading their gun with a silver bullet. It's not the case. So let me give you a couple of examples, a couple of ideas that you might think about that can frame your email marketing, and this can apply to social media as well. Oops. So track the engagement in your email marketing to build a phone list. I'll give you an example. Our business does website development on top of email marketing. And what we will do is mention that, or mention web design tips, or include things that somebody interested in a new website would want to read. We include that in our newsletters that we send to our customers and prospects. And we track who clicks through using the email marketing software that our company has built. We track who clicks through. And when somebody clicks through to read about our email marketing services, or even just to read tips about 5 things that you can do to turn a lousy website into a great website, we are able to say those people are a little bit more interested in website development than the people who didn't click. We're qualifying prospects. And we might call those people first. If you think about getting to sales quickly, closing productively and profitably, you have a webinar, or you have a trade show event, or you go to a networking event, and you have 100 good prospects that you've added to your CRM as a result of that lead generation tactic, that activity. A good hustling salesperson might say, here they are, here's their phone number, I'm going to make 100 phone calls. And those 100 phone calls will lead to 3 meetings, 4 meetings, 5 meetings, who knows? But what if instead you used your interactive technologies like email to say, I'm going to engage these people I met with valuable content, then I'm going to pay attention to the people who clicked, and instead of making 100 phone calls to make 3 meetings, I'm going to call the 10 people who clicked. And if you call those 10 people who clicked, you might not get all 3. One of the people who was interested might not have clicked through. But you might get 2 meetings, or if you got 5 by calling 100, you might get 4 by calling the people who clicked. And I don't know about you, but I'd much rather get 4 meetings from 10 phone calls than 5 meetings from 100 phone calls. No one has that kind of time to burn, and yet so many businesses, that's how they do it. Hustle. Call every name in the Rolodex, knock on every door on every floor. Interactive technologies help you qualify your prospects. What else can you do? Invite your followers to an online or a live event. So now I'm kind of turning it all on its head. But you meet prospects at a trade show or whatever, or you get them into a webinar. Now invite them to a sales demo. It's actually stuff that Josh was talking about. Really, the free bonus that Josh was describing, the 30-minute free consultation, it's brilliant marketing to present it as a gift to you, but as Josh noted, it's a sales call. It's a valuable experience for the recipient. Invite them to a next step. What's the next conversation? If telephone consultation is what you need to make a sale, invite them to it. And as Josh demonstrated, if you can present it as a gift, that's not being tricky or deceitful. That's being, what you'll learn in that 30 minutes is valuable to you. What you'll also learn are things that you need to do, and you'll realize that Josh or Tom represent the folks who need to help you do it. That's where it becomes a sales call. Always have a call to action in the interactive technologies. Call to schedule an appointment. Again, just what Josh said. Call us, that final screen in Josh's presentation, instead of Q&A, go to our website, learn about it, sign up for more. Okay? Not click here to buy or download our user agreement and contract. What's the place you want them to get? Work backwards from the close. I don't need them to jump to the close. I can't get them to jump to the close. But I can get them to jump to an appointment with me and meet face to face. And finally, send that personalized follow-up meeting and conversation request. How many of you opened an email that we sent for this event that was generally a text-only email that was personalized? Dear first name, I wanted to personally invite you to this event. And that email came from Bill, or from me, or from Cynthia, or from various people in the group. So now I'm the man behind the curtain, and I'm going to open the curtain a little bit for you. What we've done in the past for this webinar is we announce it in our monthly newsletter, and we get a certain number of registrants who show up as a result of the standard message in our newsletter. And then a week or so after the newsletter, which is a week or so in advance of the event, we send another email with the big E4E banner image, a graphical email announcement from Experts for Entrepreneurs, reply address, something at e4ecommunity.com, and a reminder about our big event. Impersonal, commercial email. What we chose to do this month was to say we're going to send personal emails. We took our database, we put the names of the people, Bill Purnett, Tom Ruwitch, Josh Turner, Cynthia Carell, whomever, against the people in this list who know you. And we used merging technology, personalization technology in our email software to make sure that what was still a mass email went out as from Bill Purnett, reply, Bill Purnett at simplysuccessfulllc.com, Dear Dale, hope you can come to the event, here are the details, signed Bill. And Bill, you were telling me earlier today that you received a significant number of replies from people who couldn't attend. Sorry, but thank you so much for the note. The message, the call to action, register for the event, the whole purpose of the note was no different than anything we've ever done. But it was personalized, and it had a direct call to action, and people welcomed that, and as opposed to having their guard up a little bit for those commercial emails. So 4 simple ways that you can begin to think about moving from lead to sale with the engagement. Thank goodness I see no one who looks like that right now. I have before, but not today. Yeah. They've signed up for your webinar, you have their email address, and now it's time to send email to them. One of the great mistakes that businesses make is that they send everything to everybody every time, and what they send is not necessarily relevant to people's interests, nor is it educational, entertaining, or informative. How many of you are on email lists from some webinar you attended, from some networking event that you signed up for something, where you receive these emails, here's what we do, here's why you should buy, here's the offer. Boom, 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 over and over and over again. No value other than the pitch. If you do not put relevant, entertaining, educational, informative content in front of your audience, they won't be engaged, and you won't have them when it's time for you to pitch. It's not that you shouldn't pitch, we'll get to that more in a little while, but you have to keep them engaged, and you keep them engaged by providing value to them, by providing that educational, entertaining, informative content. Let's see how I can get this menu to go away. There. So, how do you go about doing that? There's a basic and simple formula that we apply when we define our own content, design our own content, or when we work with clients to develop content plans. And this formula applies not just to email marketing, but it applies to your blogs, it applies to the posts that you put on social media, it applies to anything and everything that you do in your communications, including defining the topics for your webinars. And it's a pretty simple concept. Your content should answer the frequently asked questions that your prospects and your clients are raising. Your content should answer the should ask questions that your prospects and clients are raising. And your content should address the objections that your clients and prospects are raising, which is just another form of question that they may be raising. If you're not answering their questions or addressing their objections, what is it that you're putting out there and why? What is it that you're telling them and why? Lots of businesses need to answer that question and don't have a good answer to that question. Those are the businesses that are posting to Facebook and Twitter about what they had for breakfast. It's okay to put the personal touch on your content. We'll talk about that a little bit in a moment. But it shouldn't be done in lieu of answering the should ask questions, the frequently asked questions, and the objections. One of my top 5 movies, who can name this movie?
Oh, Princess Bride.
Princess Bride, yep. The late, great Peter Falk and Fred Savage. So that's Grandpa, whatever his name was, reading the story of the Princess Bride. Storytelling is essential. There's an old saying in marketing that the quality of your products and services is often enough to get the first sale done. The quality of the relationship, are you likable? Do you maintain trust? Are your customers comfortable with you? Is the key factor in maximizing the lifetime value of your relationships, in improving customer retention, in increasing referrals, in getting them to upsell, to buy higher levels of your products and services, or cross-sell, get them into other products and services. And the way to build those personal bonds is to deliver content that is not just the lecture. Here are the 5 things you need to know about X. Here are 7 tips about Y. The way to do it is to tie those things around stories. If you ever have a chance to read the column that I write for St. Louis Small Business Monthly, a monthly marketing column, or if you visit my blog, the MarketVolt blog, blog.marketvolt.com, you will see the content littered with stories. This month's column in the newspaper talks about the importance of good customer service. And instead of saying, here are 5 reasons why it's important to pay attention to your customers and be willing to admit mistakes and so forth, I tell a story about a massive fight that I'm in the middle of with Whirlpool over their lousy response to a repair issue that I have. People relate to the story. Oh, I've had a customer support issue with General Electric, just like that. It draws them in, it connects the dots, And the recommendation that I have for you is start content planning by just listing as a sentence or two those FAQs and SAQs and so forth. Keep that posted by your desk where you can refer to it constantly. And then just let yourself begin to recognize when the things that are happening in your life, the articles you read, the events that occur to you, that happen to you, if you're paying attention to SAQs and FAQs and objections, then when you have a lousy customer service experience with Whirlpool, you'll think, that's a good hook for a story about customer service, which is a story we often want to tell because customer service is an important element of email marketing and maintaining a bond and customer retention. So find ways to bring your own stories into your content to make it more engaging. And it's not just about maximizing lifetime value. The more you tell stories, the more you will sell. You will convert prospects into customers. And then finally, lead them to the well. Josh is outstanding at understanding, this is not just an exercise in stroking your own ego and sharing your own expertise for the sake of sharing your expertise. You're in this to sell. And so you have to start by engaging them and providing value and giving them a reason to pay attention and open your emails or stick with your Facebook feed or your Twitter feed day after day after day, week after week after week. But if you never get to the sale, if you never say, here's what I'm offering, here's why you should buy, if you don't pitch, what's the point? They don't just volunteer to buy. So it's about educating, entertaining, and informing, but it is also about pitching. So your content has to say, here is the offer. Here is the thing that we're bringing to the table, and here's how you can sign up. Josh weaves it into the end of a webinar. Josh weaves it into the emails that follow the webinars. We do the same thing. Let me recap what I've done and what I've talked about here, and then we're going to spend some time on Q&A. You have a whole bunch of leads. You've done a great job and followed all the great tips that Josh shared with you, and you've run webinars, and your funnel is full of people who are interested in what you do. What you do not want to do is then just say, hope they show up, hope they buy, nor do you want to just begin flooding their inbox or flooding their Facebook feeds or their LinkedIn walls with pitch, pitch, pitch. You have to remember how you close a sale, be it meetings, be it telephone calls, be it whatever way you do it. And then you have to devise strategies to get to those closing events most efficiently and productively. Don't look for those silver bullets. Work backwards from the close. Find where those sales events and interactive technology can meet. Keep the content relevant, educational, informative, entertaining. A note that I didn't make before. If you have email technology that allows you to customize delivery of the content according to demographics or psychographics or any other reasonable segmentation in your database, do it. So with the MarketVolt technology, for example, you can take a message and say, I want to show or hide this message according to how I have these people tagged in the database. I'll use a B2C example to bring this home. Let's imagine you run a music store, vintage vinyl. And you know in your database that you have people who are interested in classical music, people who are interested in jazz, people who are interested in rock and roll. Well, every time you write a newsletter, you start with a little bit of interesting news. You know, just news from the music world. You're engaging with them as music fans, not just pitching to them, this CD is on sale, that CD is on sale, so forth. Interesting news. Well, if you can, in that interesting news section, create one interesting news item about classical, one interesting news item about rock, one interesting news item about jazz, and say, I only want to show or hide these items according to their tags in my database. You'll send an email where the classical music fan will see the classical music item, the jazz fan will see the jazz item, and the person who has eclectic tastes across the board, jazz, rock, and classical, will see all three items. The content is more relevant to that person's interests, more entertaining, more engaging, and then when you say, we now have a deal, the Classical Music Lovers Club. Sign up for the club, get a new classical CD, 10% off every month if you pre-commit to the deal. The classical people are all going to be all over it. Answer the questions and objections. Tell those stories. And don't be afraid to pitch that classical music club or your website business or your consulting business around LinkedIn or your linked university or whatever it is you sell. People err on the side of pitching too much, but probably the second great mistake is people err on the side of just thinking that if I build a bunch of interesting content, if I build it, they will come, as if people just somehow read your mind and know what it is you're selling and why they should buy it. It's not the case. Don't be afraid to pitch.